I still remember the first moment my boots hit the ground out at Pine Hollow Lake. The kind of quiet that settles over a place that's been left to its own business for generations. Yeah, that was supposed to be my welcome. Instead, I stepped into a fight I didn't see coming with the kind of folks who think power is something you can redraw on a map and enforce with a clipboard. You want a hook? Here's one for you. I rolled up to what should have been my family's old lake lodge, only to find the county map had been conveniently altered 10 days earlier. My land, my shoreline, the dock my grandfather built snatched up on paper like it was some low-stakes heist. And the first welcome wagon was the HOA storming down my dock, barking orders like I'd just committed a crime for stepping on my own property. Now, maybe you've never tangled with a homeowners association before, but let me tell you, some of these people, they get a taste of authority and it's like flipping a switch. I'd barely set down my coffee before I had a stack of papers shoved at my chest. Accusations flying about illegal dock maintenance and unapproved construction. I hadn't even unpacked my tools, but apparently unloading lumber counted as a felony if the clipboard brigade decided so. But something in my gut said, this wasn't just standard HOA overreach. Maybe it was the way that woman Maline's Stroud hair pulled so tight I thought it might snap, came at me all heels and threats, and a voice that could peel paint. Or maybe it was the map she waved under my nose, fresh red marker lines boxing in my lodge, my dock, even my driveway, all of it suddenly under their jurisdiction. I tried reasoning calm as I could, told her plain and simple this property's been Mercer land since 1934. You'd think I'd started a war with how she reacted. We own what we say we own, she shot back, eyes hard as river rock. And if I didn't comply, well, removal was on the table before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. Welcome home, right? Here's what nobody tells you about these standoffs. It's not just about the paperwork or the rules or even the land itself. It's about leverage. About who can outlast who. I'd spent years working on dam sites where a bad call could flood a valley and ruin a town. You learn how to read pressure. How to stay steady when everyone else is losing their minds. And that morning, standing on my own dock with the lake behind me and a fake map in my hand, I made a decision I wasn't folding. Turns out someone at the county clerk's office noticed the same thing I did. Got a call from a woman named Clara, nervous voice barely above a whisper. She'd caught the boundary expansion filing signature didn't match. Something felt off. Did you authorize this? She asked. Not a chance. I hadn't even set foot in the place yet, and already my land was being boxed up and handed off. So I started digging. Every violation notice that showed up on my porch, every SUV idling at the end of my drive, every so-called inspector who tried to bully their way inside without a warrant, I kept track. Stacked the papers, labeled the box HOA harassment. Some folks might have cracked under the pressure. I started to see the cracks in their story instead. See, Pine Hollow's got its own rhythm, and not everybody's on the HOA's side. Sheriff Briggs, old school sharp-eyed, sent me a message, call if anything gets out of hand, which in that town could mean anything from a trespassing warning to a midnight inspection by board members with flashlights and a tape measure. The way those guys jumped when I caught them out by the dock in the dark, you'd have thought I was the ghost of property rights himself. But the real twist, it wasn't about the lodge, not really. It was about what was under it. One low morning, the lake dropped just enough to reveal something metallic, old military-grade steel, not the kind you find in a garden shed. My grandfather never talked about it, but there it was, sunk deep, anchoring the dock like a spine. And when Clara from the clerk's office brought out those faded 1934 surveys, it all clicked into place. Turns out my family didn't just own the lodge, they owned the submerged land beneath half the lake. Every dock, every slip, every exclusive HOA boat launch was built on Mercer land. No legal trick could erase that. But the HOA had tried all the same. Maline and her board, desperate to control the lake access that propped up property values and kept them in power, had forged their way into a corner. You ever see what happens when people who are used to getting their way realize the game's up? They get mean. Fast. That's when the real intimidation started. Demolition warnings, threats of fines, environmental complaints, you name it. But the more they pushed, the more their own story started to unravel. Signatures that didn't match. Citations quoting bylaws that didn't exist. A login trail leading right back to Maline's own county portal account. It was sloppy, desperate. The kind of cover-up that doesn't just bend the rules, it snaps them in half. With the county on my side and a stack of deeds older than most of the trees on that lake, I brought it all to the monthly HOA meeting. Walked in with my attorney documents in hand and let the truth do the talking. Projected the original survey map right next to the forged one, watched the whole room go from skeptical to stunned. Malene tried to bluff her way out, but even her own board started backing away as if her guilt was contagious. That moment when Sheriff Briggs stepped forward, called it what it was, and announced a county investigation. Yeah, that's what justice sounds like in a place where people have been scared into silence for too long. The HOA was suspended. The whole community, suddenly without its guardians, was left looking for answers, and a lot of them ended up on my porch the next day. What do you do when you hold all the cards? When everyone's worried you'll use your new leverage to settle scores? You don't double down on control, you give some of it back. I offered permanent easements, fair and affordable, to every homeowner who needed lake access. No more threats, no more pay to play. Any fees went right back into keeping the lake clean, not into anyone's pockets. That's what finally broke the tension. Folks started seeing me not as some outsider with a claim, but as a neighbor who just wanted to set things right. Even the old-timers like Bentley Car Guy's handshake told you more than any HOA contract ever could, walked away knowing things would finally be done above board. Now, I'll tell you, none of this makes me a hero. If anything, I learned more about myself, about what happens when good people get boxed in by those who value power over honesty. The lesson wasn't some grand speech. It came to me quiet, the way the lake settles after a storm. Sometimes the truth's been sitting right beneath your feet all along, buried under water, steel, and silence. All it takes is someone stubborn enough to bring it up for air. That night, as I stood out on the dock, feeling the lake breathe easy for the first time in years, I realized the real win wasn't just sinking the HOA. It was proving that you don't have to play dirty to get justice. Sometimes you just have to stand your ground, keep your record straight, and let the bullies dig their own hole. So let me throw this out to you. Have you ever stood your ground when someone tried to take what's yours? Did you let it go, or did you fight back? Drop a justice in the comments if you've ever had to stare down someone who thought rules were just lines you could erase. And if you're into stories where the truth doesn't just come out, it comes out swinging, stick around. I've got more fights worth watching, and I'd bet money you've got a few stories of your own.